Inspection report will give you like everything that we did pick up. Right, so what we're going to capture here is going to be just the major items. All right, let me know when you're ready.
I'm already ready. I already started to.
Oh, okay, that works. On the roof, I think that we're talking about a roof that probably has somewhere between maybe 4 to 6 years left on it, give or take. You're going to have to do some maintenance on it because there's some areas where loose shingles are. There's areas where 2 satellite dishes were mounted up at the north west corner. You'll want to make sure those stay tarred down. There was like a little patio cover they put in the back. I would be careful with that because if you get a lot of wind, that thing could probably fly right off. But the roof, the main house roof, doesn't look bad to me. The decking looks very good. The nailing pattern for the roof looks really good. So there's no issues there. I could not physically get close enough to your hurricane straps to determine how many nails there might be in there and what type of straps they are. I was able to crawl in and zoom with the camera and take a picture, so when I look at it on my computer while I'm doing your report, in your report will be specific information as far as what I can see. I do know one thing, that they're there. What I can tell you on the other side of it is because of the age of the house, it's not likely to be anything that conforms with anything that they expect of you today. Is there a way that you can modify those things? Probably if you really wanted to, but it's a little bit of work and it involves opening up soffits, and I don't know that it's worth it to do that. The house has been here for how many hurricanes and how many years? Chances are it'll be fine for a while longer.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to worry about with that. Now, things you might want to consider up there. I did notice that the ductwork is original. There's a lot of loose ductwork, and I know this because as I was crawling 15 minutes into it, as I got over the bedroom area, I felt ice cold air blowing on me. That's never a good thing. It's always a good thing for me, but never a good thing for you. When you're in the attic, it feels like you're getting a nice cold breeze. It's because some of the ductwork is disconnected. So I'm going to make some recommendations on air conditioning in general, and it will include the ductwork. At a minimum, you want to reconnect what's not connected and seal it with mastic so that you're not losing air up there. But there's also some concerns on things happening at the air handler unit itself too. The unit's cooling and heating fine, but what's happening is a lot of condensation is forming over at the air handler unit at the support. But also, I opened up and looked underneath, and it is wet under there too. So there's probably some sort of a backup happening. I would have an air conditioning guy come out and just locate where it terminates at, vacuum it out, and kind of clean that up a little. This gentleman who lives here told me he installed the unit. I don't know if he did it himself or a friend did it, but there will be a list of little things to do. The important thing is the equipment is 2011, it's 2 years old. It's cooling and heating fine. And if you can get the warranty info, if you can correct this little stuff, it seems like it'll last a while. You know, probably 10 to 12 years. All right, Goodman's a product that's pretty decent as of late, and they have good warranties. All right, so that's the story on air conditioning. On plumbing, there's been a lot of alterations on plumbing. Now, that is going to be something, if you modify the house, you may run into some things where you find out later that some things are done not so right. That happens. As far as the materials go, it looks like copper and CPVC on the supply, and the CPVC looks like it was used at repair areas and modified areas only. So it wasn't repiped.
Best look is a repipe.
Right, if you wanted to repipe the house, that would be 100% certainty. And to be honest with you, the pipes in this particular house, most run underneath, except for where they've made some changes. So if first sign of a problem, what might happen is you're going to have a plumber tell you, you may as well just repipe this because, you know, with copper it could happen again or whatever.
Right.
And he wouldn't be lying to you. And then you make your decision based on your collective counsel, your dad and your family and your budget, naturally. All right, but right now things seem to be functioning and working with the exception of what we talked about as far as where the plumbing is draining for the master bathroom. Water pressure seemed pretty good. I had 70 psi. That's right in the pocket. That's good. Your water meter's over here, but I don't see a place where you can shut your water off other than that, so that's going to serve as your main water valve until you replumb, and then when you replumb, they'll put one in for you. Now the water heater on the plumbing side is installed outside. That unit's not meant to be outdoors, so it probably will shorten the life expectancy because of the conditions outside. It's working just fine. It was put in 2011 as well. All right, I can't see where the pipes go once they go in the wall, but based on what I can see, it looks like it's installed fine. So it's working right now. What they probably did is when they made this conversion of changing over the garage, they had to alter some things, and I guess the water heater didn't fit into the plans. So it was kicked to the curb. So you got basically the water heater outside. What you can do to help preserve the life of it until you actually have a plumbing project that you're going to do is maybe enclose it. I did a house downtown Orlando. Yeah, they basically enclosed the water heater and put it in some kind of casing, you know, and in their case it was wood. It serves the purpose. They made a nice little thing and they had a shelf over it. I had to dismantle it. It was pretty and everything, but I had to take it apart to get to the water heater. But if you put something like that in there, it probably would be a benefit. Protect it from rain, protect it from what have you. Right, just FYI. So on the surface, it's functional, it's fairly new and in working condition. Structurally, I don't see any problems. I mean, the building's standing up pretty well. What I do see some challenges with is the backyard. Maybe you guys will probably address that when you get in. And those challenges are typical, like concrete that was done after the original build has shifted and moved. There's some trip hazards. The deck could probably use some reworking because there's some areas that have some water damage and other areas that are uneven. So if you walk out there at night and you're walking out there to do something barefoot or whatever, you can stub your toe or trip. You just want to make sure you're aware of those areas. And then when your budget allows for it, whatever it is you decide to do, that's up to you. We're going to recommend a general contract. Remember our conversation earlier?
Right.
Evaluate it and correct any issues with it so that it basically tells you that we know there's some problems there, and so do you. But it's not one of these things where I would put it on the top priority. Example would be your priority would be your electrical.
Right.
This on the back would be kind of low.
Right.
Something else you want to pay attention to, also low on the priority list, but something important to know, is that building in the back. I would have an electrician, when you have them look at the wiring for the electrical, have them correct some of the issues there. It's the receptacles in there aren't grounded, and that tells me that somewhere in that circuit they didn't connect something or they didn't connect something right. Also, in there, if you open it up, is a pretty substantial mold odor. It's because the roof seems to be a problem, and you can actually see the decking on the top is damaged. So I would, if you're going to use that, I would probably open it up, get it to air out as much as possible. I would not spend any length of time in there, because we don't know what type of mold is in there, and you don't want to take a chance. Might be harmless, but then again, if it's not, you don't want to sit in there for an hour.
Right.
And I went in there chewing gum, so I know the smell and the taste. It tastes like something's going on. Anyway, so that's the story back there. Now on the, where are we leaving out here? We did plumbing, we did air conditioning. I have a long list of minor electrical and also a list of like what we call punch list items. Mm-hmm. I'm going to categorize them all into electrical, all right, so that your electrician is aware of what we saw. But items like open slots at the main panel, those are little slots you buy at Ace Hardware or Home Depot in the electrical department, and they fit over the areas where the breakers are missing so that kids can't reach in there, God forbid, and touch anything.
Right.
That you would want to pay attention to for FHA, because they usually look for obvious stuff like that. Like, you know, exposed wires, even cable wires, I would terminate them. You know, that are terminated but just hanging there.
Right.
Other examples of this are like the panel legend is not labeled clearly, so you don't really know what anything is controlling. Now, if this FHA guy goes into the attic, right at the immediate attic access in the addition here, there's about 4 or 5 splices there that he will see. So even though open splices in an attic is a fire hazard and considered an easy repair, it's a fire hazard because they're not in a box. An easy repair because putting them in a box is not that big of a deal. But from FHA standpoint, if they look up there, you've got to understand that that would be considered unsafe and it could cause a problem with your loan. Mm-hmm. All right, so I would see, Renee, and this one I'm gearing towards you too, I would see if you can get the exposed wires something that can be addressed for the path forward, you know, and based on your moving forward. But that's really the only thing I saw on the exposed wiring. If they peek behind the dryer, you'll see that this guy or someone else did the electrical back there, and you'll see that wire is not the copper's not exposed, but the wires themselves are not in conduit as they come down to the 220 receptacle.
Right.
If the FHA guy looks behind there just to see, that would be something they may call. They may flag that. Is it unsafe? Probably not really, but is it wrong? Yes. You know, sometimes you got to weigh these things out as far as how do you fix it. Also, when I looked in there, it almost looked like you only have cold water for the washing machine, and it looks like they run the PVC pipe maybe right into the wall over there. I didn't see a place for hot water. You know, when
They didn't run it from the hot water for the water either.
No, I guess not. I guess they decided against it. I looked behind there best that I could. I don't see any place to hook up a place for hot water. So when you get in,